Today we continue to chief disciple liberation, Venerable Mogallana and Venerable Sariputra, and Anattalakkhana Sutta, part 1 and part 2. First, we have to recite Anattalakkhana Sutta. Open your book, page 119, Vijnana Khanda. Can you follow me? Vijnana Bhikkhave Nada. Vijnani Jahiram Bhikkhave Atta Abhavaisa. Naida Vijnanam Abadaya Samvideya Labeta Cha Vijnane Evome Vijnana Hodu Evome Vijnana Mahositi Yasamaja Ko Bhikkhave Vijnana Nata Tasma Vijnana Avadaya Samvidati Nacha Lavati Vijnane Evome Vijnana Hodu Evome Vijnana Mahositi. Recite together. Vijnana Bhikkhave Nata Vijnani Jahidam Bhikkhave Atta Abhavaisa Naida Vijnana Avadaya Samvideya Labeta Cha Vijnane Evome Vijnana Hodu Evome Vijnana Mahositi Yasamaja Ko Bhikkhave Vijnana Nata Tasama Vijnana Avadaya Samvidati Nacha Lavati Vijnane Evome Vijnana Hodu Evome Vijnana Mahositi. Translation, follow me. Monks, Vijnana consciousness is not self, soul or living entity. Monks, if consciousness was self, it would not tend to afflict or distress, and it would also be possible to say, let my consciousness be thus. Let my consciousness not be thus. Monks, in fact, consciousness is not self. Since it is not self, it tends to afflict and distress, and it is not possible to say of consciousness, let it be thus. Let it not be thus. Okay, we start part 1. That is Vedanakhanda. Regarding Vedanakhanda, Anattalakkhana Sutta, we need to understand the two chief disciple liberation. Venerable Mogallana and Venerable Sariputra. When Buddha dwelt in Rajaga city, Upatesa and Kolita, accompanied by 250 monks, came to the Buddha. Listening to the Buddha's teaching, the 250 followers became fully enlightened. They became arahant. But the would-be Sariputra and Mogallana was still Sotapanna, stream enterers, without any higher attainment. Why? The followers, 250 monks, 250 became fully enlightened, but would-be Sariputra and Mogallana was still string enterers because they are extraordinary individual, so they are required to fulfill their paramis, perfection on extraordinarily grand scale. Then Buddha ordained them as bhikkhus. Buddha addressed them, Ehi bhikkhu, eta bhikkhavo, come here bhikkhus, Buddha said, and they became bhikkhus. Upatesa, the would-be Sariputra, had to take 15 days from the first waxing day of the Buddha, that is February, and to its full moon day to attain full enlightenment, Arata Mega. Venerable Mogallana had to take 7 days to be fully enlightened. Probably it was on the last day, that is day 7, that he had been practicing very intensively in a jungle called Kanlawala Buddha village, Magadha kingdom. He spent the entire week practicing energetically in walking meditation. Then he felt exhausted and drowsy. Sleepiness and drowsiness is quite common for every meditator. If you practice persistently without sleeping, without resting. And the late most venerable Mahasi Sayadaw had this kinds of experience. One day during his intensive retreat, Mahasi Sayadaw practiced meditation, walking back and forth without sleeping. He felt really exhausted when it was very late. So with intention to relax just for a while, he sat on one place, then he fell asleep right away, He did not even know when he fell asleep. A Venerable Mogallana practiced for 7 days, walking back and forth. However, occasionally he would sit for a while, but most of the time, Venerable Mogallana practiced walking back and forth. Being exalted, he became sleepy and drowsy. At that time, Buddha, dwelling in the forest known as Besakala Sanctuary, Susumaragiri city, Bega province in India. So Buddha saw through his Devacheku, divine eye, Venerable Mogallana nodding. Most probably the Buddha frequently kept an eye on meditators practicing under his guidance. Also, every meditation teacher today should keep an eye on their practicing yogi as much as possible. Of course, nowadays meditation teachers have to do so with their naked eye, but not with Devachaku, divine eyes, like the Buddha did. Now the Buddha exercising his psychic power, Edivida, appeared in the presence of Venerable Mogallana. As fast as one folds his arm and stretch it out, it is by means of his psychic power. Buddha just took a moment, maybe 30 seconds, to be there, some 200 miles far from where he dwelt. Then Buddha sat on the seat that has been traditionally arranged in case the Buddha came. Then Buddha asked, Basalaya sino tum Mogallana, Basalaya sino tum Mogallana. Mogallana, are you drowsy? Mogallana, are you drowsy? Buddha asked. Evam Bande, Mogallana replied, yes, Venerable Sir. Then Buddha taught him 7 methods of dealing with drowsiness. A meditation teacher should teach them to his yogis on top of his own experience. And yogis will definitely find them very useful during their intensive retreat. So these methods are possible to practice. So Buddha said, Tasamatiya te Mogallana yatha sinyitasa viharato tammedan aukamati tan sinyam ma manasakasi tan sinyam ma bhula makasi. Method 1 is regarding sinya. So Buddha said, Mogallana, while contemplating in a particular way, if drowsiness overcomes you, then don't contemplate that way. That is regarding discouraging signal. Drowsy, drowsy. Why we drowsy? There are conditions for drowsiness to arise. When we contemplate in a certain way, we would feel tired and sleepy. So Buddha said, Tansinya ma manasakasi. Don't contemplate that way during an intensive retreat when meditator gets exalted. He or she may feel discouraged by contemplating. I've been practicing for long, the whole day non-stop, so tired, and meditation is not getting better, and knowledge is not complete yet. How strenuous the practice is, what the time consuming it is, and so on. So such contemplations, such signals are discouraging signals. So it is called signal. It is thoughts that would discourage meditators from putting further effort in the intensive practice. Then sleepiness will overcome meditators indeed. Alternatively, if meditator contemplate on an easy object, say a single touching point somewhere in the body, then it would be too easy for you to be active. This kind of contemplation, senior, has something to do with your practice, and that can lead to drowsiness. Meda. The meda in Pali TOEFL does not necessarily mean mental defilements, but sometimes it is just bodily fatigue. So if you observe a single object, it would become too easy for you to be active. Then drowsiness or trouble, meda is likely to overcome you. So avoid that thoughts. Avoid contemplating a single object for long, and avoid contemplating your practice in a discouraging manner. Both can be called sinya thoughts. So here Buddha instructed Venerable Mogallana not to contemplate the physical fatigue in such unskillful way, not fully energized, not attentively, not in a like manner. And Buddha instructed Mogallana not to observe a single object in such a relaxing manner that you would feel inactive and sleepy. So further effort needs to be made by contemplating more objects or by contemplating skillfully. For instance, if you initially note two objects, you should note four objects or 5 objects or 6 objects. Suppose you note only 2 objects, you know one object sitting, 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 or you know 2 objects rising, falling, rising, falling. Then you should note, you should add 2 more objects to that. Sitting, touching, sitting, touching. If needed, you may add 3 objects, 4 objects, 5 objects, or 6 objects, 6 touching points to the rising and falling. There are many touching points, buttock touching, hand touching, leg touching, many touching points are there that is prominent to you. You can add more objects to note. So your mind will become active and energetic, and subsequently the drowsiness would reduce to a remarkable extent. And Buddha said, Tanang Kopanitam Mogallana Vijati Shante Evam Vi Harato Dhammedam Bhiyeta. Mogallana, practicing in this way, there is possibility for you to overcome drowsiness. So meditator have to change the way to contemplate, or meditator have to change the way the object to observe. When you get physical fatigue, you should not consider it a good reason to recline or relax. Oh, how nice to take a rest, how nice to be relaxed for a while. You give many reasons to relax. And on the other hand, you should not observe a single and easy object at all times. If you increase the number of objects to observe, then you would most probably overcome the drowsiness. So the first method is to not consider it a good reason to recline. This kinds of discouraging signal should be avoided. And also you should not observe a single and easy object at all time. You should increase the number of objects to observe. And now also the environment is very favorable. So your fellow meditators are very energetic. Some good yogis, they do not feel sleepy. It's so energetic. And also you should recognize the disadvantages of sleepiness and advantage of keeping yourself awake. So another six methods we continue. Now we go back to Anattalakkhana Sutta. So in the practice of meditation, it is important to understand the 3 characteristics of psychophysical phenomena: anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So we should understand anatta first in theory And then we must understand anatta through the practice of vipassana meditation. In this Anattalakkhana Sutta, Buddha declared that the 5 aggregates are anatta. Actually, he took the 5 aggregates one by one and then said that Rupam Bhikkhu anatta, Rupa or corporality is anatta, non-self. Vedana Bhikkhu anatta, Vedana or feeling is non-self. Sinya anatta, sinya or perception is anatta, non-self. Sankhara Bhikkhu anatta, sankhara or mental formations are anatta, non-self. And Vijnana anatta, Vijnana or consciousness is non-self. So he taught that all these 5 aggregates are not self. So most people are not able to see anatta nature of things because anatta nature is concealed by compactness. We take things to be compact. We take things to be substantial, and so we fail to see the anatta nature of things. They are concealed by compactness means they are concealed by the view of compactness. We think that we are a compact things. We think that the matter is compact and the mind is also compact. So long as we think that we are compact, we cannot see the insubstantiality of ourselves. So the view of compactness conceals the nature because we do not give attention to break into elements. We do not give attention to resolution into elements. So long as we see mind and matter as one compact things, we will not see its anatta nature. But when we break down the body and mind into elements, that is the elements that compose them, then we will come to see the insubstantiality of nama rupa. Now most people do not even see mind and matter as 2 separate things. Sometimes we think that we are just one, our mind and body are just one. So long as we do not see the separateness, so long as we do not see the separateness of mind and matter, or the different elements that constitute mind and that constitute matter, so long as we cannot see them, we will not be able to break this view of compactness. If we cannot break the view of compactness, we will not see the anatta nature of things. When we pay attention to what is happening to us, or what is happening in us, or when we pay attention to the object at the present moment, we will not fail to see that what we thought to be one compact thing is actually composed of small elements. If we do not practice meditation, we think this one mind see, one mind hear, one mind smell, one mind taste, one mind touch, and one mind think. We think. But when we watch our mind, we know that we see with one mind, and we hear with one mind, and so on. So they are separate things. They are separate elements. Also, we know in our body, the four elements, earth elements, water element, fire elements, and air elements. When we are able to see these elements separately, we breathe the view of compactness. When we can break the view of compactness, we know that what we thought to be substantial is really insubstantial, really anatta. And so we see that it is anatta. When we see the elements separately, one distinct from the other, and when we see that they arise and disappear depending on the condition, we come to the realization that there is no exercise of power over them, over mind and body. For example, seeing mind or seeing consciousness, when there is something to be seen and when it is brought into the avenue of our eye sensitivity retina, there is the seeing consciousness. We cannot prevent this seeing consciousness from arising when there are these conditions. However much we want this seeing consciousness not to arise, it will arise because there are conditions for it to arise. So there is no exercising of power over the arising of seeing consciousness. It arises depending on the condition. So long as there are conditions, it will arise. So we have no power over them. We have no power over these psychophysical phenomena. Having no power over them is one aspect of their being anatta. So we can really see the anatta nature of things. That is, they are insubstantial, they have no inner core, and also they are not susceptible to the exercise of power. Only when we practice vipassana meditation, only when we pay attention to the presently arising phenomena. Without the practice of vipassana meditation, we cannot see the anatta nature clearly. We may read books, we may hear or we may listen to talks, and we think we understand the anatta nature. That understanding is not our understanding. It is just a borrowed understanding. Only when we practice vipassana meditation, only when we pay close attention to the objects at the present moment, we can see the anatta nature of mind and matter along with the impermanent nature and suffering nature. So the nature of anatta can only be understood through the practice of continuous vipassana meditation. Now, 2 months intensive retreat, you are trying to find out the true nature of these psychophysical phenomena, anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So regarding Vijnana, Buddha said, Vijnana bhikkhve anatta. Bhikkhu's consciousness is not self. So how many Vijnanas are there? Jakku Vijnana, seeing consciousness, Sota Vijnana, Gana Vijnana, Jiva Vijnana, Kaya Vijnana, and Mano Vijnana, seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, smelling consciousness, tasting consciousness, touching consciousness, and mind consciousness. 6 kinds of consciousness. So these 6 kinds of consciousness are held to as self or living entity. It is I who see that man, I see that man, I see that person. It is I who hear the sounds of the person. I hear the voice of that man. In this way, all the 6 cognitions of senses, 6 kinds of consciousness are regarded to one single self, I. So this clinging to self is ordinarily inevitable. Those objects which are devoid of sense of cognition, such as a log, post, a lump of earth, a stone, are regarded as inanimate. Only those objects invested with faculties of cognition are regarded as animate, living entity. So it is not surprising that seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness is taken to be self, a living entity. To understand the correct answer, you are trying to watch very closely when you see, when you hear, when you smell, taste, touch, and know. But in fact, seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, etc. is not self, not a living entity. So Buddha declared that Vijnana anatta, consciousness is not self. So Buddha continued to explain why Vijnana is not self. Buddha gave this reason why consciousness is not self. If consciousness was self, the inner substance, it would not tend to afflict, and it is not usual for self to oppress self. It should also be possible to manage so as to have always wholesome states of mind and not to have unwholesome attitude appearing. But as a matter of fact, consciousness tends to afflict, and it is not under to our management and control. Consequently, consciousness is not self, not inner substance. And Buddha said, Bhikkhus, in reality, consciousness is not self, so it tends to afflict, and it is not possible to say of consciousness, let consciousness be always wholesome, let consciousness be not unwholesome. It is not possible to manage your consciousness. So Chaita and Chaitasika, there are 53 kinds of Chaita, Chaitasika, 53 kinds of mind, consciousness, and mental states, mental formations or concomitants. Majority of people are more familiar with mind. People talk about, oh, he has good mind, she has good mind, the person has bad mind, etc. They rarely speak of a concomitant such as phasa, contact, eye contact, chetana volition, sanya perception, vedana feeling, etc. that always appear in conjunction with mind. Furthermore, people are attached to that mind as I or self. It is I who see that man, it is I who see, it is I who hear, etc. Not only we human beings, but even devas as well as other creatures cling to the belief that consciousness is I, consciousness is self. However, consciousness is definitely not self. Not being self, it tends to oppressing. How? How consciousness is oppressing? How vijnana is oppressing? Consciousness oppressed when seeing what is repulsive and horrible, when hearing unpleasant sound, bad news, unpleasant talk, when smelling foul, offensive odors, when thinking of depressing, distressing, sad and horrible mental objects, consciousness oppressed. Can you recognize the kinds of vijnana consciousness oppressed? We all beings like to dwell only on pleasant sights, but according to circumstances, we may have to face horrible and repulsive sights. Some people are very unfortunate. For these unfortunate people, the majority of what they see is made up of undesirable objects. So this is how Chakku Vijnana, eye consciousness, tends to oppress. Ever wishing to hear sweet sounds, sweet words, good news, circumstances may compel them to listen to unpleasant sound, bad news. Stricken with misfortune, they may be subjected most of the time to dreadful noises, threats, rebukes. So this is the way Sota Vijnana, ear consciousness is oppressing. Again, all beings like enjoy nice clean smell, but they have to be patient also with foul fetric odors. It is how smelling consciousness, nose consciousness oppress. The oppression by eye, ear, nose consciousness are not very apparent in our human world, whereas in the animal world, the world of hungry ghosts and hell, the oppressive nature of these consciousness are vividly seen. You can see animals, creatures in the animals world are almost constantly seeing horrible objects, hearing dreadful sound, and those existing in filth have to smell putrid foul odors all the time. So it is clear that hungry ghosts and beings in hell were far worse than animals. They will be all the time submerged with distress, seeing bad sights, hearing bad sounds, smelling bad smell. In some area in the hell realm, in hell realms, everything seen, heard, smelled, tasted, touched, and thought about all are unpleasant. There exists nothing pleasant for them in the hell realm. They are called Sappasa Yatanika Dukkhatana. Eye contact horrible, hearing contact horrible, etc. Every seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching are very frightening because of their bad karma in the past. So all men like to enjoy only good taste, delicious taste, but unluckily, unfortunate people have to exist on bad food. This is how tongue consciousness oppress them. In this respect too, the oppression is more apparent in the four woeful states. Men like to feel only pleasant sensation, but when circumstances would not allow, they will have to endure with undesirable experience. For instance, when they are suffering from an sickness, at such time their suffering is so oppressive, and that they even yearn for instant death to get released from this suffering. It is far worse, of course, in the four woeful states. Men like to live a carefree life all the time. We want to be happy in this life. Nevertheless, circumstances would not people lead such a carefree life. Instead, there are many who are struggling with depression, disappointment, sorrow, lamentation. So some of them never get out the kinds of unhappiness and misery throughout their life, victim of oppression by the Manovinyana, mind consciousness. So the oppressing consciousness is not subject to our will arising as determined by circumstances. Consciousness is unmanageable and uncontrollable. Although we may wish for a pleasant sight, in the absence of pleasant object, we cannot see a pleasant sight. On the other hand, hateful, horrible sights will be seen. When there are unpleasant objects around, when the eyes are kept open, there come horrible sights. So this is an example of how eye consciousness is not subjected to our will. It arises itself dependent on condition. In the same way, although we may wish to hear only pleasant sound, good news in the absence of pleasant objects or sound, pleasant voice and speech, it cannot be heard. So it is necessary to keep music, etc., when desired, pleasant sounds and voices. Unwilling to hear undesirable sound, bad news, when there are such sounds and voices, unavoidably, these unpleasant things will come to our ears. Then hearing consciousness is unmanageable, arising of itself, depending on condition. So all the vijnana have to be observed. So in the similar manner, although we like to enjoy sweet smell, if sweet smell is not present, our wish cannot be fulfilled. So people provide themselves with scents and perfumes and flowers. However unwilling we may be to breathe in bad smell, when foul smell exists around, we have to suffer from their smell and other physical illness, such as headache, etc. This is how nose consciousness is not amenable to will, and it arises of itself depending upon circumstances. So this vijnana have to be contemplated. So in the Dhammavada Pali text, Buddha said, Duringama ekacharam asariram guhasyam ye chaitan sanyamisandi maukandi marabandana. The nature of mind during Gamam. Mind usually wanders far and wide. Yogis are practicing in the meditation hall, but sometimes the mind may wander far in other places. So mind have to be contemplated. Ekacharam. Mind usually occurs singly. Mind usually occurs singly and one after another in succession. People who do not perceive this fact believe that one mind exists in whole life, and they do not know that new minds are always arising at every moment. They don't know, and they think that seeing mind, hearing mind of the past and those of the present belong to one and the same mind. These are wrong views. In fact, a single new mind arises at every moment. This can be perceived on gaining considerable practice of meditation. So when you practice meditation, sometimes the mind is planning and imagining. You have to note imagining, and planning. So these mental states, when you capture very thoroughly, they vanish as soon as it is noted. The instances of arising, noting, and vanishing appear like a string of beads. The preceding mind is not the following mind, and each is separate. So these facts of vijnana you can perceive personally. So for this purpose, you are practicing continuously. And Buddha said, Asariram, mind has no substance and no form. It is not easy to distinguish it as with matter, body. And Buddha said, Guhasayam, mind stay in the cave. Because the mind usually comes into existence depending on mind base, hariyavitu, heart base, and other sense door, eye door, ear door, nose door, tongue door, and body door, situated in the body. Buddha said, Guhasayam, mind stay in the cave. So where is the mind? Mind is in the heart base or mind base. And when you see mind is in your eye sensitivity, when you hear, mind is in your eardrums, etc. So Buddha said, mind stay in the cave. Ye chaitan sanyame sandi maukhandi mara bandhana. If you could restrain this vijnana, you would be free from the bondage of death. So Buddha said, mind should be contemplated each time as it occurs. That is what Buddha meant, control. Mind can be controlled by means of contemplation. Every arising vijnana you observe, and it is controlling your mind. On you are successfully controlling your mind, you would win freedom from the mara. You would win freedom from the bondage of death. So it will be seen now that it is important to note the mind consciousness at every occurrence. As soon as it is noted, mind usually vanish. During sitting, planning arises, and you know planning. And planning disappear at once if you do not wish, but if you wish to plan, it will keep going. But if you really note thoroughly, planning vanish. Then you note your primary object rising, falling should be noted. So every arising vijnana have to be contemplated. So you reminded every day, Chitte Chittanupasi Virati, Atapi Samajano Satima Viniya Loke Bija Domanasam. Contemplating the consciousness in the consciousness, which is impermanence, suffering, and non-self. You are contemplating continuously to understand the nature of vijnana. Sometimes saraga, attachment, liking, pleasing mind, you know, desire, lust. Sometimes no liking, no lust at all. Sometimes anger, disappointment, hatred, disgusting, mind, disgusting consciousness, you note anger, etc. And that kind is the state of consciousness vijnana you observe thoroughly. And sometimes samoha, you think that you are permanent and others are permanent. You think that you are deluded that you are the living entity, etc. That is samoha, deluded mind. Sometimes sankita chaita, that is sloth and double. You lazy to practice. Sometimes the kinds of lazy mind have to be noted. Vikita chaita, scatter mind, restless mind. When it occurs, you have to note. So every occurring vijnana you need to observe. Ye Chaitan Sanyame Santi Maukani Marabarana, if meditator restrain this vijnana, he or she would be free from the bondage of Mara. Can you follow me? If the meditators could restrain the vijnana, he or she would be free from the bondage of Mara. So every arising vijnana, you need to observe it. Every seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, every observation. In every observation, there is mind together arising, and you need to observe. If you observe every consciousness, you are restraining, you are controlling your mind, and you will be free from the bondage of Mara. You will be free from the dangers of death. So we will continue tomorrow. Next time we have to stop our discourse for today by practicing vipassana meditation, by observing every phenomena occurring at the six doors, by restraining the mind. May all yogis be free from the bondage of Mara. May all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all practitioners realize the real peace in the very near future. So.